Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hogue, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbooks, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
I'm back! I'm AJ Hogue, author of Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. Father of the Effortless English System. I teach you, I train you to speak English fluently, speak English powerfully, speak English effortlessly when you join my Effortless English VIP program at effortlessenglishclub.com, effortlessenglishclub.com. Go to that website. Commit, don't quit to my VIP program. Also, business English course. You should sign up for my email. I'm sending in just about a week. 1 week, I'll send the discount codes. Get my new re-released business English course. Nice to be back. It's been, a couple weeks? Woo! Hard 2 weeks for me. So if you didn't know, my 2 babies, I have twin babies, little babies. They're 6 months old. And they both had to go into the hospital. They had to stay in the hospital over 1 week. They both got sick, just like a virus infection. And one of our babies has some other serious health problems. So it means for him, especially for him, an infection is quite serious. But also for our little girl, also, she was having problems. She wasn't eating enough. So we had to go into the hospital and stay in the hospital with the babies. And they had to live in, they had to live in the hospital. We had to live in the hospital. People are saying the sound is bad, too loud. What's going on with the sound? Let's see. Check. 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 Why is the sound suddenly weird? Check. Check. So the software seems to have they've changed it again. All right, how's the sound now? Checking the sound now. Checking. Okay, looks like the sound is back. Okay, good. I don't know this is really strange. So this gets to show you now that sometimes with software, they did a software update. So I had the same exact microphone settings. I changed nothing. But they changed the software and suddenly it's super loud. I can see it now on the monitor. Before, it was very loud, showing red. So now I have to completely change the setting much lower. Anyway, this is where we just see that usually when they say they're improving the software, they're making it worse. All right. So anyway, my babies were in the hospital. They had to stay in the hospital. And of course, the parents, my wife and I, we also stayed in the hospital with them, of course. We don't leave them alone. So we were all living in the hospital for over a week, and we were not getting much sleep. I was exhausted. My wife was exhausted. So tired. Oh, my God. And of course, we're worried about our babies, but their babies are home now. We're all home. Everyone's doing better. Babies are fine. So, whew. But it was a tough time. Unfortunately, during that time, I basically did 0 Japanese. So we're going to talk today about our challenge. We're basically right in the middle of the challenge now. We have our 4-month challenge for English. For me, it's Japanese, but for you, it's English. And we started in August, so we did August and now September. That's 2 months. We're finishing September. So we have October, November. We're right at the middle now of our challenge, our listening and reading challenge. So it's a good time now to check in. So I'll go ahead and I'll just talk about my experience first. Give you my update. I'm doing Japanese, of course. I already know English. So I'll give you an update on how I've been doing. So I did, I would say my first 6 weeks of Japanese, I was doing really well. Probably about 7 hours a day. Mostly listening. You probably know Japanese, the reading is very tough because they have the writing system, the Chinese characters that are called Kanji. And they also have 2 alphabets, which are called hiragana and katakana. So anyway, I learned hiragana and katakana, which are the easier ones. But the kanji is very slow. I know probably now about 400 kanji I've learned in 2 months, which is okay. It's not super fast, but it's okay. So I started, the first month I really didn't do, so it's really about 1 month. In about 1 month I've learned about 400 kanji because the first month I didn't study kanji at all, the characters. So that's okay, but I can't really read anything in Japanese except there are some manga. I'm going through one manga very slowly because every word I have to use a dictionary. So I don't look up every word, but I'll just kind of pick words just to start learning some more vocab. And then I'm watching an anime. It's the same as the manga. So I'm getting the listening, and it's the same story. It's called Conan, Detective Conan. If any of you are anime fans, Japanese, you might know it. It's a pretty famous one. Detective Conan. It's about this guy who's a detective, like this kid who's a detective. But, I can only understand maybe, 5%. Not much. So what I do is I watch one episode in Japanese only, no subtitles, and if I can hear a word clearly, I'll pause and I'll use a dictionary, and sometimes I can find it, and so I'll learn a few words that way. Many times I can't. I'm not hearing it clearly enough, so I try to find it in the dictionary, and I can't find it. So I just keep going. And in this way, like I said, maybe I know 5%. It's very low. Then what I do is I watch the same episode again with English subtitles. And I'll try, I try not to focus too much on just the English, because then it's no point, right? But I'm trying to get the general meaning, the general of what's happening in the story with the English, and at the same time, so I'll look at the English subtitles quickly, get the main idea, and then try to pick out Japanese words so that I can. And in this way, again, I'm learning a little bit. The other thing I'm doing is a lot of mini stories. And what happened was this. So for about the first 6 weeks, my motivation was really high. I was doing great. Lots of repetition, a huge amount of repetition of the mini stories. And then doing this other stuff too. But then I found about 2 weeks ago, just before the babies went to the hospital, maybe a week before that, my motivation was crashing. I was getting really bored repeating the mini stories. I probably did 50 repetitions of every story. So finally I was hitting a point where I was getting bored. It was too much. I was getting sick of those same stories. Okay? Really sick of them. And this happens, this will happen. You hit a point sometimes where you're doing something with language for you, English, and you just finally, it's like too much. Your brain needs a change. You need a change. So in some ways, it's actually good. I had, the babies went to the hospital. That was bad. But I got a 2-week break. I basically did no Japanese for 2 weeks. Very little. Almost none. But the good news is that then 2 days ago, I started back again. And now I feel refreshed. Like my brain feels fresh. I listened to the mini stories again today. And I was not bored at all with the mini stories. In fact, I was enjoying them. I've forgotten a few things, but overall I was enjoying trying to remember the words and the meaning. Last night I watched anime like all night, basically, about 4 hours. Was watching the same Detective Conan anime and was enjoying it quite a lot. And I found, like, I didn't want to, last night I didn't feel like studying really, didn't want to review vocabulary, I didn't really want to read. So I just watched lots of these anime shows. And I find what I'm doing is that, if I get really bored with something, then I just change to something different. Don't quit, just change to something different. So I'll get sometimes I want a lot of repetition. I like to do the same thing many times, like the mini stories. That's good. But then eventually I get bored with that, right? At some point, that becomes boring. So then what I do is, then I switch. Then I go and I watch anime. I'll just watch in Japanese, and I won't repeat it all. I just watch lots of different episodes. Just watch one, and then another one, and then another one. Maybe read a little bit. And I'll do that. After a while, I feel tired doing that. Then I'll go back and repeat something that I know well. That's easier. And I'll jump around like this, and it keeps my brain more fresh instead of trying to force myself to just keep doing the same thing all the time. So in this way, I feel like now I'm refreshed. I've had a little break. Sometimes a little break helps. Just a short break, like a week, can actually give your brain a little rest, and then you feel good again. So like today, I'll probably do 10 hours of Japanese. I've already done 8 hours, and I have a few more hours left tonight. So that's great. I'm right back in it. So don't feel bad if you've had a 1 week or 2 weeks that are kind of bad. If your time drops for a couple of weeks, if you even take a whole break, sometimes it can actually be good. You can use that. Your brain gets a little bit more fresh and gets a little rest, and then jump back in again with the challenge and with big hours. And the other thing I recommend is during this challenge, especially when you are increasing your hours a lot with listening and reading, to jump around. Jump around. Don't force yourself to be bored. This is important, I think, especially with large number of hours per day. If you start to feel bored with something, just jump to something else. So if you're doing mini stories or doing VIP lessons, for example, great. Do those. Get big repetition. That helps so much. But eventually you'll get bored. Eventually you will. So just jump to something else. Listen to an audiobook. Listen to this podcast. Listen to someone else. Watch a movie in English. Anything. Just English. Make sure it's English, right? So then you'll do that. Maybe you get tired of that. Then come back to the mini stories again. And you just keep rotating, moving around. Another way to change, I found, especially in Spanish, and I can't do this in Japanese yet, really, but in Spanish I found that jumping between reading and listening can help, because they're quite different skills for your brain. And I would find sometimes I would listen and listen and listen and listen, and then finally after maybe a few weeks of listening a lot, like I just kind of get tired. It requires a lot of concentration to listen, and it's hard because it's so fast, right? So I'd kind of I'm just getting tired of listening. So then that's a good time. I would change and focus on reading, and maybe for a couple of weeks change my focus, take a little bit, not quit listening, don't quit listening, but do less listening and do much more reading, because reading is a different kind of skill. You can go slowly. You can find things that are more difficult because you can use the dictionary easily. You can go slowly. So maybe a little higher level stuff, more interesting, more variety. It's still challenging for your brain, but in a different way. So then I, would focus on reading for a while, building vocabulary in reading. And then after a while, that becomes maybe tiring or boring. And then back to focusing on listening again. So you can jump around like this, moving around, listening to reading, lots of repetition, and then just wide listening and wide reading, and moving around like this so you can keep your overall English time very high without getting bored and without getting too tired. And then sometimes, occasionally, take a little break. All right, let's go into questions and comments. It'll be a short one today. I'm kind of still a little tired from the hospital, and I need to figure out this audio problem that's going on with the... Can't quite figure it out. I don't think it's my mic. I think it's the software. Anyway. Let's go to our live questions and comments. We are live on YouTube today. So Nihan says, is watching English cartoons, is it effective or not? It's effective. Yes, very good. I'm doing that in Japanese. I'm watching Japanese cartoons, anime. And the anime I'm watching is called Detective Conan. It's probably, for example, my 8-year-old Japanese nephew likes Detective Conan. If it gives you an idea of the level. Okay, so he's 8 years old and he likes it. So that but the stories are kind of, I find that the nice thing about like that one, I like it because the stories they're okay for children, but they also are interesting for adults. It's like a crime detective thing, right? He's solving crimes. And it's kind of simple for children, kind of, but it's interesting enough that it's also, for me as an adult, it's still interesting. Some cartoons are very, very childish, like some Disney thing or something. I don't want to watch that. But Detective Conan's not bad. It's okay even as an adult. So find something you like. And of course, like Nasser says, of course, your daily show helps us a lot. Well, exactly. That's why I do the daily show, because this is an hour, usually about an hour of English listening you can do. That's why I try to talk about lots of topics. It's why I talk about topics, not only just English learning, because that's just one topic. It doesn't, it's a little boring and it's too limited. So that's why I like to talk about philosophy and religion and propaganda and money and business and career and education and children, all these topics, and health and fitness, because then you get to listen to English for a big variety of topics. And that's why I like to interview people about all these different topics. We've had David the Good about gardening. We had Anthony about body weight strength training. Of course, we had Matt about language learning. So we'll keep a variety. I emailed Steve Kaufman. Many of you know who he is. Steve Kaufman, the linguist who speaks many languages, and he has agreed to be interviewed. I've had him before. I'll talk to him again. We're going to talk about mini stories because he's been using mini stories a lot recently. He's traveling right now. He's in Spain at the moment, and when he gets home, we'll set up an interview and talk with him, because I like Steve a lot. He obviously is an expert on language learning, and I like his approach. Okay. All right, so here's a kind of question. Is it possible to get C2 level? And I'll explain what that means. Through the internet. I was in the U.S. a couple years ago. I don't want to go back. I have a problem with speaking because they're too much slang for me and vague stuff. Okay, so C2, what does that mean? Many of you know it's like there's a European standard of language, kind of like ranking your language. So it's A, B, C, and their numbers. Like I think it goes A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. C2 would be the highest, like near native level of speaking. So is it possible? It's absolutely possible. How do we know this? Well, my last guest, Matt from MIA, did this in Japanese. Now so it's the same. It doesn't matter which language. It's the same idea. He's American, and he has achieved near native fluency in Japanese, and he did not live in Japan. He visited Japan one time, but as he said, he did it all through the internet, and and he also found some people. Maybe he tried to meet some people locally, but pretty much on the internet. He found people to chat with on the internet, Japanese people. He watched anime, he watched television, he read books. He, as he said, and it's true, and in English it's even better. There's so much. You can do everything from your own home, even if you're in a small village in the countryside somewhere. It doesn't matter. If you have an internet connection, you absolutely can with English, with most languages, but especially English, because English. There's so much. There's on the internet. English is the number one language. There's There's the most movies, the most books, the most YouTube videos, the most podcasts. English would be, you can definitely do it in English, and other really large popular languages. You can do certainly Japanese, European languages, definitely Chinese, I'm sure. Maybe some smaller languages it might be more difficult, but for those really big ones, no problem. You can do it. So you do not have to travel. Oh, you guys are... Yeah, Ong says it will be a great interview. Yes, it will. With Steve, it'll be great. You know what I find is already with the guests I have had, I've only interviewed a few guests, but I find that they're so interesting that I want to have them back again, because there's so many deep topics I can talk. Like Matt, the last guest, he has so many interesting ideas about language learning. I feel like in one interview is not enough. I only maybe talk about 10% of what I want to talk about. And I know that will be true with Steve Kaufman. And it's like Achayarji, that's why I have him back again and again. I want to have Matt back again. I'll certainly try to have Steve more often, because Steve has a lot of great ideas. I follow him on YouTube and his podcast. I'd like to have David the Good back, talk about some more gardening stuff, really all these people. So I like going more deeply with the guests, not just a short interview. So I'll have these people come back again, for sure. Could you make a show about public speaking skills? Yes, I will. Mujtabi asked that question, and I will. I like that. It's one of my favorite things, public speaking. I like it. I think because I like that topic because it's something that I was very, very bad at it, when I first started, like most people. It scared me. I was really bad. I was super nervous. And then over time, I developed a high level of skill. And so it's not something natural for me. And so I understand. People who are scared of public speaking, people who have a hard time or nervous. I completely understand it, because I was the same exact way, felt exactly the same. So I do like to talk about it, and it's a very useful skill. It gives you a lot of confidence when you can do it, and it can help your career, your job, even your hobbies. So yes, I'll talk about that. What do you think about English ranking systems, says Aaron? I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you could do a follow-up. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, like Dalal says, switching from reading to listening is helpful to vary the ways of learning and stay calm and motivated. I see exactly what I was saying. I find it helps a lot. Ahmed, I have a suggestion. Interview Rollo Tomasi. Yes, I want to interview Rollo Tomasi. I do. I'll contact him soon, actually. Steve Kaufman, polyglot. Yes. Oh, good. So Jack So followed up on that interview. He says, I've gone through the websites of Mass Immersion Approach and some of Matt's videos. I'm doing some SRS cards, Unki, and stuff recently. This stuff really refreshing and motivates me to do more reading. Good. You'll find a lot of different opinions about Unki and the cards. Some people hate it and basically don't do it. Steve Kaufman's like that. If you watch Steve Kaufman's videos, he doesn't do it. He doesn't use Unki, really. He doesn't really do it. He just wants to, he gets vocabulary from reading a lot and listening a lot. And on the other end, it would be like Matt, who does a lot of Unki. He's a big fan of Unki and the cards, flashcard systems and things. I'm probably in the middle. I don't too much Unki. I find really boring. I can do it a little bit. Mostly I'm doing Unki for the Kanji characters in Japanese. I do it a little with vocabulary, but I find, I don't know, it just doesn't stick so much for me. I find that for me, I remember the vocab more from reading it, just seeing it again and again when I'm reading, seeing it in the full situation, the full context. Then it sort of sticks better. If I just sticking like a card flashing up in one word or even one sentence, even of just a phrase, it's okay. I do it a little bit, but I find it a bit boring, so I try to limit it. I try not to do it too much. It's a little bit of review. It kind of exposes me to some words a little more, and I just, as soon as I'm bored, I stop. That's how I do it. So there's not a right answer, you just find, I think you can do it. It's not necessary. You don't have to do it. It can be useful if you're more like Matt. If you really find that like Unki and the flashcards help you a lot and motivate you, especially the motivation is important. If you find it motivating and interesting, some people do. They find it like seeing the cards growing, and that they really find it motivating and challenging, like a game. So if that's you, then use Unki as much as you want. Other people, like Steve Kaufman, really hate it. I used to be like that, where I just totally hated it and never did it. Now a little bit I like it. A little bit. So just do what you like. It's up to you. So Anderson Sasaki says, I already live in Japan for 10 years, but I can't speak Japanese fluently. For me, kanji is very difficult to learn. Well, I think for all foreigners, kanji's hard. So Anderson, you should check out that mass immersion approach. See that interview I did with Matt. And I recommend for the kanji specifically, there's a book called Remembering the Kanji. Remembering the Kanji by a guy named, what's his name? Heisei, I think is his name. No, that's a Japanese... Heisig, I think is his name. And there's an Unki card system called Lazy Kanji, or look on Matt's website, Mass Immersion Approach. He's got an Unki card set just for learning the most common kanji. It does work. It uses stories as a memory technique to remember the kanji. And that's the only thing that's worked for me. I tried other systems, they did not work. So good luck. Yeah, well, good point. Alexi says, we have to be cautious in terms of what kind of content we're choosing. Sometimes I'm watching a TEDx show, but there's some complex video related to a specific area, such as medicine. Yeah, right. And sometimes you don't know, so, you can just jump around, right? So you can just try things. You can go on YouTube and you find a video, like a TED Talk, and you start it, and then you find out, oh, wait a second. Sorry, guys. 1 second. My software is having problems. You get on there and you try a few minutes, and maybe you realize, the topic, I don't really like the topic, or the topic's too specific, like medicine or whatever, biology or something, and just leave and find another video. There's thousands and thousands of videos, so don't waste time, just jump to something else. Right, okay, so Tata learned French with anime. I watched Naruto, Detective Conan, Full Metal Alchemist, and Attack of the Titans. They're all great, not just entertaining, but lots of good points of view. So these, I assume you mean in French, right? So these are all Japanese anime, but the cool thing is that they have been dubbed, right? They've been made into other languages. So if you can find French, I'm sure you can find English for these anime. I know you can find Attack of the Titans because I've watched it in English. So I think it's Attack in English. It's Attack on Titan is what it's called. Attack on Titan. It's an anime and a manga. And I have one that's in Japanese and English, the manga. I haven't tried it yet, but the anime definitely is in English. You can find Attack on Titan anime. I think it's on Netflix. So all of these anime, I'm sure you can find in English. And what's cool about that is that a lot of these anime have a little more adult stories, right? Because some like American cartoons can be very childish, very, very childish, and maybe not so interesting for adults. But these, they're kind of cool. Like Detective Conan is great. That would be a good one in English. I definitely recommend it. I'll try some of these in Japanese, Tata. Thank you. Okay, Ivan says, recently I started running. When I spotted I was focusing on listening on English, I didn't notice fatigue. Strangely enough, it helps me stand and turn with English with a clear mind. So that's interesting. So finding that listening to English and running, it helps both. Listening to English means that because Ivan's focused on listening to the English, doesn't notice being tired so much while running, so it helps the running. And then the running helps keep a clear mind, which is better for the English. And again, this is why I always say that it's really nice to do your listening when you can, while you're walking or running or being active. I like walking and listening a lot. I find the same. My mind gets more clear. I get more focused, and I'm kind of energized more. Obviously with babies in hospital, I couldn't do it, but that's my preference, is to do it while walking. Oh, Emmanuel says, I need your advice. Do you recommend watching anime such as Dragon Ball? Most people say it might influence adolescents to become violent at school, or is that ridiculous? It depends, right? Each one's different. Like Attack on Titan, I don't recommend for kids. It's not for kids. It's even as an adult, Attack on Titan's it's very violent, right? There's these giants and they're eating people, and you can see the blood and stuff. It's kind of nasty. But on the other hand, Detective Conan, there's a little blood, I guess, but it's not so violent, really. It reminds me of more. I think that one's probably fine, Detective Conan, and other ones are maybe less violent. So you just have to watch each one and decide yourself. Some can be very violent, and others are not. So you have to decide for yourself, I think. Depends on the age of the kid, and just watch it first. This is a very specific question. Is via a useful word used in daily conversation? How often is it used? Yes, via is a word that we use, yes. Via means like by way of, right? I went to the store via taxi. Right, using a taxi. Do you speak Japanese fluently? Not yet. Hey, Christy, thank you. He says, I miss you. We missed you, AJ. It's nice to be back. Dave says, I count this as a listening challenge. As you should. You're listening to English right now. Oh, let's do it. Let's check in on the listening challenge, shall we? Let's check it. Let's check our numbers. We haven't checked this. Well, we're at the middle point, so let's see how we're doing. And sign in. All right. I can just do it as an admin here. All right, the listening challenge. Woohoo! Sven is almost to 1,000 hours in 2 months. That's impressive. And really, everybody, everyone in the top 10, probably the top 20, is very impressive. So, you've got Edward Anderson is 870 hours. Julia Lemaine, 682. Shero with 647. Alamine with 616. Jean Ribeiro with 549, Jose Ramos with 543, Alexander Belyakov with 502, Julia Takita 485, Moshe Gelberg 432. That's the top 10. Very impressive, guys. And everybody below that too. I mean, you're all doing really well. Very, very well. I'll give you just a compare. I'll show you what my numbers are. I'm down in the... Where am I now? I dropped down to 27 with my 2-week break, so I'm at 288. Ibrahim Ali is also at 288. There's Carol, 287. So we're all in the same range there. Olga, 304. So you guys, it's not bad. I'm very happy with my numbers, so everybody above me is doing great. You're doing great, you guys. It's working. This challenge has been fantastic. Now, on reading, I'm not doing much reading, as I said already. With Japanese, reading is quite a challenge, and I have to learn these kanji first. I don't have to, but it's better. So, really, I'll be focusing more on reading later, maybe 6 months from now. But for now, it's much more listening for me. But for you all, you can do reading in English. And let's check out the reading. So we got Edward Anderson at 742, 711 with Sven, Roberto De Santos, 369, Carol with 331. These are hours. Jennifer Melo, 249. Hikam, 248. Peggy with 243. Inderpal with 215. Salvador Ramirez with 197. And Lisa, our own Lisa, with 182 hours. Very nice. Also, excellent, guys. Doing great. Doing great. This has been a great challenge. Now we're at the halfway point. So just imagine if you can double those numbers. Double those numbers. So the next 2 months, keep doing what you're doing, or maybe even do more. I'm going to try to do more, right? I think that let's finish strong is a nice mentality. It's kind of like from running. When you're running a marathon, and then the last 2 miles, you try to finish strong. You push yourself harder, cross the finish line, strong, running hard. That's the idea. So let's do that. We're past the halfway point now. We're almost 2 more days. So as we go into October and November, our last 2 months, the second half of the challenge, try to increase. Whatever you're doing, doesn't matter. If you're doing 1 hour a day, try to do a little more. I'm going to try. I probably averaged, I'm not counting my break, but before the break, I was doing about 7 hours a day. I'm going to try to increase that to 8, 9 hours a day, something like that. I encourage you to do the same. Let's all just increase a little bit and finish these last 2 months very strong. I think we'll all be very happy at the end of our 4-month challenge with some improvements. All right, a few more questions, and then I'm going to go and we'll be back. Khalid says, more than 30,000 words I need to speak fluently. Is that right? I don't know. There's a lot of argument about these numbers, okay? And it also, it depends. Are you talking about speaking or understanding? You need to know a lot of words for understanding fluently. But for speaking, actually, no, I would say for speaking, you could actively know much fewer, many fewer than 30,000. You don't need 30,000 words to speak well. Maybe 5,000. I don't know. There are different numbers. People say 5, 8, something like that. You could speak very, very, very well. But to understand what a lot of people are saying, understand TV, understand movies, understand conversations, then you do need to understand passively a lot more. So maybe that number is more about like passive understanding. Maybe it's closer to something like that. But for active speaking, using, the number can be much smaller. Just use the most common words, the most common direct words, fairly short sentences, direct sentences. You can communicate very well that way with a lot fewer words. So that's the good news. Alexi says, I missed your walk and talk shows. The best way of being enlightenment regarding what happens in the world. I'll try to get back to those when I can get. I'm not doing a lot of walking right now, but when I can get out with the babies walking more, I'll do more of those again. They'll come back. Let's see. What do I do for English writing practice? Writing's a little difficult. It's the last thing I recommend working on. Mostly it comes from reading a lot. This is mostly just really speaking from a research side. This is what Dr. Krashen talks about a lot, is that most of your writing ability comes from a huge amount of reading. You're absorbing it. You're sort of learning the sentence structure and how to write well from reading a lot. Yeah, you can look up grammar occasionally when you need to, and spelling, but mostly it's going to come from a huge amount of reading, and then just write every day, like write a blog post every day. Like I noticed my friend, I'll give you an example. I have a friend, a Thai friend from Thailand. And when I met him in Thailand, he could speak English, but he could not read, and he definitely could not write. So I helped him start learning to read, just learning like really basics, very simple. And he started learning to read. And then I just helped him for, a couple months, I think. And then he just started reading by himself. So he's doing that. Then he got on Facebook and he started using like text messaging a lot. And that helped him with his reading, but he started writing, just text messaging, little messages to friends, little short emails, basically, and little Facebook messages. And what's amazing is that over time, he has gotten better and better and better, and now he's very, very good. And he did it mostly from lots of reading and then just practicing by writing text messages and Facebook stuff. So there you go. There's one example. Now he's not doing like business writing. He's not doing writing for school, but practical writing for communication. He's improved. He has improved a lot by doing all that. Do you recommend to read, Emmanuel again says, do you recommend to read the translation of a new word or definitions? Most students are too fixated when memorizing definitions. Yeah, no need to memorize definitions. I like just translations, quick translations. Do you get the full meaning of the word? No, but you'll get that from experience. As you read and listen more, you'll start to get a feeling for that. So I like what is the fastest thing possible. And at least at my level, I just go for the translation. I guess if you're very advanced, you could use an English dictionary instead. That would be okay. But if just do what you want, whatever's quick and easy for you. The point is that get the general idea quickly and keep going. When will be the next live show? Hopefully tomorrow at the same time. Okay. Oh, are you going to do a movie club tomorrow? No, not movie club. If I do a show tomorrow, it'll be just something regular, like a regular talk. I'm still recovering a little bit from lack of sleep with the babies. So, excuse me. I need a few more days to sort of just do some easy shows like this. And then we'll get started. Maybe next weekend. Next weekend we can start Jerry Maguire. And also next weekend, next Saturday, we'll continue with our book club again. So back again, chapter 2, I think, next week for Your Money or Your Life. And we'll start Jerry Maguire, our next movie. And my business English course will be open. So October, lots of things happening in October. Okay, this is another specific question. We'll end with this. Sachin93 Yune, y'all. Is it okay to read Reader's Digest magazine to improve English? Yeah, that's great. Perfect. Lots of different topics. It's a pretty easy level. It's not super complicated. It's not like reading a difficult novel, but it's still for adults. So it's at a nice, high but not too high. It's definitely native speaker level. And there's a large variety of different stories in Reader's Digest. So yeah, Reader's Digest is great. Perfect. It's made for native speakers. If you like it, read it. That's perfect. Okay, I'm going to go. So just a little bit of a short show today. I'm just getting back to my schedule again. Getting a little more sleep and recovering. Whew. Hope you're doing well. I'm going to jump back into Japanese too. I'll keep you updated about my Japanese. Not that you care about Japanese, but just so you know, I am joining you in the challenge. I'm fighting with a language also. All right, lots of love to you all. Get on Gab, guys. Say hi to me on Gab. Thank you, everyone. Many of you sent me messages on Gab, sending good thoughts and prayers for my babies. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I read them all, and I'll try to be more active on Gab too. So the Gab group, if you're watching on video, you can see my Gab, but it's gab.com/AJHOGE, AJ Hogue. I'm not on Twitter anymore, really. Not active. I'm not active on Facebook, really. So if you want to ask me a question or contact me or send a comment, Gab is the best place to do it. All right, and as always, commit to my VIP program. Go to the website now, effortlessenglishclub.com. Commit, don't quit, at effortlessenglishclub.com. See you tomorrow.